Welcome back to the program. It is that time of the week when we have a look at what's been happening in social media. Of course, so much happening in this election year online, and we're going to bring you up to date with all of it. We're joined this week by our social media editor, John Bergen, Simon Black from the Daily Telegraph, and Tommy Tudorhope, a social media commentator. Thanks for joining us, all of you. John, first to you on your tweet of the week this week. What have you gone for? Yeah, look, the tweet of the week this time round goes to young Wyatt Roy, who's released a new iPhone
a
Liberal
app.
MP, we should point out.
That's
and
right.
The youngest MP in the House.
Exactly right. So he's released this new iOS app, an iPhone app to connect with people in his electorate of Longman. It's a great initiative. I think it actually allows people to sort of submit photos, to submit their concerns. Here's a couple of images of it as well. So you can see it's got some great functionality there. Allows people to learn about news about him, media about him, to tweet him directly, and he'll respond to their concerns. I think a lot of MPs should be doing this.
Aren't they doing this? What's different about what he's doing?
Some people are doing it. The fact that it's sort of enshrined within the confines of an app, it's really easy to consume. The market penetration of the iPhone in Australia is about 49%, 25% for an Android device, I believe, off the top of my head. Now, I actually asked Mr. Roy if he was planning on an Android app, and he says, look, possibly on the not too distant future, so we'll sort of watch this space.
Yeah. Tommy, what do you reckon? Is he stand out when it comes to MPs online?
Not really, actually. You'd give him thinking his age, he'll be actually quite good, but he's not very enamoured with the medium. He doesn't tweet all that often, he doesn't put good content out there. But this app is actually a good start, and I think hopefully we'll see more MPs doing it. I just hope for his sake, he's got a little functionality there where you can submit a photo about a problem. I hope he doesn't get a whole range of problems about potholes and lots of different sort of problems. So, but anyway, it's a good start. It's a good app.
Now, I want to look at the John. You picked up during the week something that Labor has had running online.
That's
this is
right.
Promoting Labor and promoting people to join the fight.
Join the fight,
which is fair enough. And I think we've got the original image that they've put out there to join the fight and obviously donate and help Labor in this election year.
Yeah.
But this has been hijacked by someone.
That's right. It's a short story, but it's worth telling. So they've started this sort of online campaign, a hashtag and image called Join the Fight, and it's an image that shows a variety of their initiatives that they've sort of done over recent years of government. Action on climate change, the NDIS, the NBN, health reform, the apology, and interestingly, Tony Abbott's views on women, or his views on women. What they're hoping is that this will sort of translate into material support, door knocking, manning the phones, helping in any other way. This image has actually been sort of hijacked as such. Someone's made a satirical parody of it, someone that is sort of more enamoured to the Greens cause or the broadly progressive cause, and they said, yeah, you're right, we should, and they tweeted to them and they said, they actually photoshopped it, and it said, massive new coal developments, making sure the unemployed remain in poverty, data retention, cutting single parent benefits. Now,
so they're having fun with it. It's not the first time that's happened.
That's right.
But then what happened next?
If that wasn't bad enough, it actually was retweeted by Labor's official Twitter page. Now,
so they've retweeted or sent out the satirical version of their own.
That's right. And they mentioned it to Labor. They said, yeah, Labor, sure, definitely, we should join this fight. A whole different set of causes, quite critical of the Labor Party, and it was inadvertently retweeted. Now, they're adamant that it actually wasn't human error and it wasn't them, and they're investigating it. But it opens up some really serious questions about underhanded tactics, sort of disrupting online campaigns.
Two things here. I guess a pretty embarrassing stuff up if they did retweet the parody.
That's quite right.
Simon, on the bigger issue here of political messages getting hijacked and re-badged and branded like we saw there, this is going to happen quite a bit.
Well, I think you've seen stuff like this happen previously, but I really think they missed an opportunity. I mean, what's saying is, somebody's snuck in or something's happened where they've retweeted a single tweet and then quickly nipped out or ducked out again. I mean, the good thing about social media is you get to interact with people on a more human level. So I don't think anybody expects you to be perfect. I would have just, if it was me, I would have just copped to it. I would have said, oh, well, we made a mistake. Let's,
So instead of trying to deny and cover up that it was retweeted by them, take it on the chin and
I just say, guys, we messed up. And you do see that. You see the best social media performers are people who are a little bit more genuine, a little bit more willing to engage on an even level. They say, we may have messed up. I'm not saying they did mess up. I'm saying, if something else entirely supernatural has happened, we've still missed an opportunity to be a little bit more accessible and be a little bit more human.
Now, looking at the issues that did play fairly big online, John. The Rudy Hill visit that's coming next week from the Prime Minister, when this dropped in the Financial Review during the week, it seems to be all a lot of us have talked about for probably far too long already. But we've got some data here on how many people were talking about it online. I've got to say, it doesn't actually look, even at its peak there, at what, 1,200 tweets, like a huge amount. Yeah. What does that tell us?
Early days, I would venture.
Next week it might go.
That's right. We've got to bear in mind that it spiked from 6 to 1,094, and of course the PM kicks off this sort of whirlwind tour, which is widely interpreted as a cynical sort of electioneering ploy on Sunday. Now, I've got to say, I think we'll see this volume increase dramatically, because the online reaction as it is so far has been overwhelmingly negative. A lot of people critical, a lot of people saying, you know, the whole idea of you holding or sort of announcing the election date was so that you could sort of get on with the business of governing.
Campaign.
That's
but,
right.
Tommy, this is the problem with it, isn't it? There's no argument the Prime Minister should be in Western Sydney, but when you've said we're not campaigning, it looks a lot like campaigning.
Yeah, completely. I think those figures are probably on the low side. I'm not sure how they've been calculated, probably very low. And it generated a fair amount of discussion. I think most of it on the sentiment side was generally negative, but it'll be interesting to see how it actually plays out next week. The Liberal strategist Brian Loughnane said a lot about the Facebook photo index, about Tony Abbott going to the races. Now, Facebook's got a 3 times larger audience than the Twitter one, so if Julia Gillard's out there in Rudy Hill and getting a lot of photographs, seeing a lot of people, maybe that'll resonate far better online next week. Yeah, on Facebook, which is more important than a medium than Twitter is. So, you know, I wouldn't put too much stock in those figures, and I wouldn't put too much stock in the immediate commentary surrounding the Twitter discussion. You know, this is a long campaign, dare I say it, and I think these things will play out generally over time. Yeah,
we'll have a look at it next week, of course. The news poll, though, which had more bad news for Labor, as we saw with the Nielsen poll the week before, John, this also, and I think we've got some data here on how it played out on Twitter as well, and you can see there that, it spiked. But again, it's not a huge number there, less than 2,000 tweets about the news poll this week. But what did get a lot of attention, in fact, was something that was said on this program on the Monday, just before the news poll came out. We were discussing the importance of polls, and Kerry-Anne Walsh, a journalist and commentator, was really getting stuck into the way the media devotes so much time to news poll. I think we've got a little bit of it here.
And then we'll be discussing it all day tomorrow, and then it will feed into the eternal question of leadership, and then it will derail the government for another day. It'll give a fabulous opportunity for doorstops for Tony Abbott to again smack Gillard around the head, the Prime Minister around the head. All for what? Because the Australian has a great marketing tool, and it uses a news poll as a way. It's a marketing tool, and it's a political intervention tool on behalf of the Australian. And frankly, the obsession with opinion polls is just bordering on the obscene.
Simon, did a lot of people online agree with that sentiment, do you think?
I think we've found her specific attack on news poll. I mean, Nelson, I think you pointed out yourself, they're the same figures.
Yeah.
They're the same figures. And the media is a little bit preoccupied with the figures at the moment, but it's because they're so bad. And because so many people are willing to come out and talk about them as well from both sides of politics. It is definitely fueling this fascination that we have with
opinion polls.
They're almost morbidly bad.
That's right.
People are fascinated with car crashes, and this is a statistical representation of a car crash, I suppose.
Well, that's right. But this clip in particular went pretty nuts online.
Yeah, it was shared quite extensively and generated a lot of feedback on our Facebook page and on Twitter. A lot of people, it's interesting to see, as Simon was saying, they're distrustful of the fact that it's the news poll, even though it shares more or less the same statistics as the Nielsen poll and indeed other polls. And
in fact, I would argue that last week's Nielsen poll probably had more coverage in the mainstream media than the news poll this week.
But a lot of people, and here's one particular snapshot, a lot of people are just saying, how are these put together? I think people aren't very aware of the fact that it is actually rigorous statisticians that are at work behind closed doors. And people are tweeting, so what can be done about it? Nielsen, News Poll, Galaxy, Morgan, who regulates them? Polling methods must be updated to capture true democracies. Now, I don't know whether or not that's the case, but it's very interesting to see sort of the disconnect and the distrust that's out there in social media of some of these polls, or at least the preoccupation with them.
And Tommy, the other thing we saw this week that we're going to see a lot of this year once again is a party putting out Kevin Rudd. We were trying to get through without mentioning Kevin Rudd this week. Is a party putting out an advertisement. It's a slick production. It's been done by an ad agency, I assume, but they're not actually paying for airtime on television.
Yeah.
They're putting it out online, and it's getting. And it was the anti-Kevin Rudd ad. It's getting a lot of chatter online as well. I guess it's a clever way of doing it.
And I think the networks have already dictated that now with election coverage, it has to be equal coverage with the announcement of the campaign on the election date. This is a strategy that's been used for a number of years. Even John Howard used this YouTube strategy. Yep. What you do is you make you release your YouTube video in the very early stages of the morning. It gets morning coverage.
Media talking about it.
Everybody gets talking about it. It's all free, and it gets a lot of shares, a lot of views, and all for very little cost. So I think we'll see a lot of it, and there's probably no shortage of material that the Liberals have at their disposal, especially around leadership, around Kevin and Julia. So more to come.
Yes, brace yourself. We sadly are right out of time for this segment. Tommy Tudor, Hope, Simon Blake and John Bergen, thanks very much for joining us this week. We'll catch up again soon. Now, for New Zealand viewers, New Zealand news is next across the Tasman. Here in Australia, PM Agenda continues. Stay with us.